There is a rule that Jewish women have passed down for generations. Not in books, not in classrooms, not from any pulpit. It was passed at kitchen tables, whispered before Shabbat, handed quietly from mother to daughter on the day she became a wife. It is called the 3-3-3 rule. And if someone had taught it to you earlier, your relationship with debt would look completely different right now. I want to share it with you today. All of it. Because too many good people are carrying a weight they were never meant to carry alone. Here is what I know about you. You are not irresponsible. You are not bad with money. You are not broken. You were simply never given the right structure. And without the right structure, even a hardworking, careful, intentional person can spend years paying and never actually getting free. That is not a personal failure. That is what happens when no one teaches you the hidden mechanics. The modern debt system was not built to help you escape. It was built to keep you comfortable enough to stay. Minimum payments, rolling balances, interest that compounds while you sleep. Most people carry debt for 10, 15, 20 years without ever understanding why it won't move. They make the payments, they do their best, they cut back where they can, and still the number barely shifts. What no one tells you is that debt costs you 3 times what you think it does, and without a structure for fighting it, you will keep circling the same amount year after year. That is the real cost, not just the money, the years. Jewish women understood this long before the modern banking system existed. They understood it because they had to. They managed households through poverty, displacement, and starting over with nothing. And they developed a framework so simple, it fits on a card. My mother kept that card in the kitchen drawer, right next to the Shabbat candles, tucked beneath a folded cloth. I found it once when I was young, and I asked her what it was. She told me her mother had written it, and her mother's mother before that. 3 numbers, 3 words. The 3-3-3 rule, written in faded ink. On the day I got married, she pulled it from that drawer and handed it to me. She said only this: "This is how we don't drown." I want to give you what she gave me. The first 3 in the 3-3-3 rule is this: never fight more than 3 debts at once. Always start with the 3 smallest balances first. Not the highest interest rates, not the most urgent lender. The 3 smallest. Here is why. The Talmud teaches that a person must not carry more obligations than they can faithfully fulfill. The sages understood something about human nature that took modern psychology centuries to confirm. When the mind faces too many demands at once, it does not try harder. It freezes. And a frozen person pays nothing, moves nothing, and changes nothing. Jewish women knew this from managing households. You do not cook 5 dishes at once when your stove has 1 flame. You choose the first dish. You finish it. Then you move to the next. A neighbor once came to my mother's kitchen in tears. She had 7 debts spread across her table like a storm. She had not slept properly in months. She could not think clearly. She had been trying to manage everything at once and making no progress on any of it. My mother made tea. She sat down across from her. She took the stack of papers and sorted them quietly by size. Then she pushed most of them to the far edge of the table. She circled 3, the smallest 3. She said, "Everything else, you pay the minimum. You do not lose sleep over it yet. Your only job right now is these 3. Starting with this one." The neighbor looked at the small pile and something changed in her face. For the first time in months, the problem had a shape. And a problem with a shape can be solved. Tonight, I want you to do what my mother did for her. Pull out every debt you have, every credit card, loan, every bill you owe. Write them in a column from smallest to largest. Circle the first 3. Everything else gets only the minimum payment. Your full attention goes to the smallest one first. This is not avoidance. This is structure. This is how a Jewish woman manages a home. 1 task at a time, with complete focus. The second 3 is perhaps the one that will change how you see debt forever. My grandmother had a saying she repeated so often I heard it in my sleep. She would say it while she wrote in her notebook, while she counted coins at the table, While she prepared for Shabbat, she would say, "When you borrow 1, you owe 3." I was a child when I first heard it. I did not understand it. When I was older, she sat me down and explained it properly. She said, "Every debt has 3 costs, and only a fool pays attention to just one. The first cost is the money you borrowed. That one is obvious. The second cost is the interest the lender charges you to borrow it. Most people feel that one eventually, usually too late. But the third cost is the one the banks are counting on you never seeing. It is the money you could not grow because you were busy paying the first 2. My grandmother called it the invisible thief. She had no finance degree, she had no calculator, she had no internet, but she understood what economists now call opportunity cost. She learned it from her mother, who learned it from hers. Let me show you what the invisible thief actually steals. Say you carry $8,000 on a credit card at 20% interest. If you pay only the minimum each month, it takes over 18 years to pay off. You will pay more than $15,000 in interest alone. That is the second cost, and it is already painful. But the third cost is this. If you had been able to invest that $15,000 instead of handing it to a lender, even at a modest return, you would have grown it to $30,000 or $40,000. So the true cost of that $8,000 debt is not $8,000. It is not even $23,000. It is closer to $50,000 when you count what was stolen from your future. Imagine 3 jars on a kitchen shelf. The first jar holds the amount you borrowed. The second jar holds every dollar of interest you will ever pay. The third jar holds everything your money could have become if it had been free to grow. Most people see only the first jar. The banks are very careful that you never look at the other 2. Jewish grandmothers looked at all 3. That is why they stayed solvent through conditions that broke everyone around them. When you understand all 3 costs, something shifts. The debt stops feeling like a slow, manageable inconvenience. It starts feeling like the emergency it actually is. And that clarity is exactly what creates the urgency to act. Now take the list you made for the first rule. Next to each debt, I want you to write what you will truly pay over its lifetime at your current pace. Free calculators exist online for this. Use one tonight. When you see the real numbers, the invisible thief becomes visible. And once you can see it, you can stop it. The third 3 is the one that ties the whole rule together, and it comes from one of the oldest principles in Jewish household wisdom. In the Torah, in Deuteronomy, there is a commandment called Shemitah. Every 7 years, debts between people were to be released, forgiven, wiped clean. The principle behind it is radical and deeply practical. No human being was ever meant to carry debt indefinitely. Debt was always meant to have an end point. Jewish women brought this principle into the home and made it a household law. No single debt should own your family for more than 3 years. 3 years is the boundary. That is the rule. If a debt will take longer than 3 years to pay at your current pace, you do not accept that timeline. You restructure it, renegotiate it, consolidate it, or cut expenses until it fits inside 3 years. My aunt carried a debt for 6 years. She was a quiet woman who kept things to herself. She managed it carefully. She paid faithfully. But I watched that debt change her home in ways that had nothing to do with money. There were more arguments at the Shabbat table. There was less laughter in the kitchen. She was present in body but somewhere else in her mind. Debt that has no visible end does not just sit in a bank account. It sits in a marriage. It sits in a mother's eyes. It sits in the air of a home and changes how everyone breathes inside it. When my aunt finally restructured and set a hard 3-year deadline, she told me something I have never forgotten. She said the air changed. That is the Zohar's teaching made practical. Unresolved obligation creates spiritual weight in a home. The moment you set an end point, the weight begins to lift. Even before the debt is gone, the decision changes something. The Talmud says, "One who comes to purify themselves is helped from above." The decision itself opens the way. Here is what I want you to do with the third 3. Take every debt on your list, calculate what monthly payment erases each one in 36 months. For some, the number will be manageable with small adjustments. For others, it may seem impossible at first. But set the deadline anyway. Write it down. Circle 36 months from today in your calendar. Put that paper somewhere you see it every morning. Because when you commit to a specific end, resources appear that you could not see before. Expenses you can cut suddenly become visible. Income you had overlooked becomes obvious. Help you did not think to ask for becomes available. The deadline does not just manage the debt, it reorganizes your entire mind around it. Tonight, here is your complete action. Pull out every debt. Write them from smallest to largest. Circle the first 3. Put the rest aside with minimum payments only. Next to each debt, write all 3 costs: what you borrowed, the total interest, and what that money could have become. Then draw a circle around a date 36 months from today. That is your boundary. That is your declaration. Now I want you to write something in the comments. Write, "I choose freedom. My debt ends in 3 years." Say it out loud if you need to. Write it on a piece of paper. Put it somewhere you will see it. In Jewish tradition, speech has weight. Words spoken with true intention are not just sounds. They are the beginning of what becomes real. You are not too far behind. You are not too deep in. You were simply never handed the card my mother kept in that kitchen drawer. Now you have it. May your home become a place of plenty. May what you build reach further than you can see today. And may you never carry alone what was always meant to be set down. If this reached you at the right moment, share it with someone you love. Subscribe so you do not miss what comes next. Because next week, I am going to show you what Jewish women keep at the front door to protect everything they have built. Most people throw it away without ever knowing what it does.